I am recording this, so any questions you have will fly out to anyone else.
Okay.
um, and of course, if anyone is watching the recording and they have questions they would like to ask, then reach out to the college and more than happy to set up an inquiry call and have a chat about that. Good. So yes, welcome, Vicky. I think you probably know a bit about the college already yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start on time. So this is recording, so we will put this up on our Facebook page and YouTube page so that those who've missed this have the opportunity to get a little insight into what we're doing next year. And I'm just going to give a quick intro to the course. So look, I'm just going to talk through a few things, Vicky. If you have any questions as we go, please stop me and ask. And of
Mhm.
course, there will be an opportunity to ask more questions at the end. If we find that you've got questions that are starting to be very specific into your particular enrollment, and that also applies for anyone who might be joining us, then we might want to take that offline if it becomes
Sure.
more one-on-one specific.
Yep.
We'll make that judgment as we go. But yes, welcome to our open day. We had our in-person open day last week, which was great. Very lovely to have a few people down at Ceres at our training center there at the learning center. Lovely outlook onto the garden. It's just a beautiful, relaxing afternoon. We had a few students offering complimentary treatments so people could have a taster of shiatsu. Because very often in these, we get people drop in who have never experienced shiatsu. So it's always nice to have that little interaction and chance to talk with the students. Um, and then, of course, it was one of those weird days that sometimes when the weather is beautiful, people don't make it to open day because they have so much on. And then this was a really horrible day of weather, so a few people didn't want to leave the house. So I'm hoping that they will tune into this today. But yes, shiatsu is that's in our name, right? That's what we do. We are one of the few colleges that provides the nationally recognized training in shiatsu. There's only two of us currently in the country. The other one is located in Lismore with Tom. He has a different structure to his course. But unfortunately, the other providers of shiatsu have unfortunately closed down over the last few years, which is part of the reason why we are now offering our program nationally and doing our intensive program over 2 years so that we can enroll students from other states. And this year we have our first cohort of students who are going through that. As first year students, they've been coming down for intensive weeks. They've just had their last one for the year, and then they'll come back next year for another 4 intensive weeks. But I'll talk about it a little further down the track. I think what's important to start with here for those who've never had shiatsu is what it is. It is a Japanese bodywork modality. Some will place it in the massage field. Others will say that it's a little different to a massage, but it is a bodywork modality. It's done with hands-on using a range of tools. Technically, it's translated as pressure or finger pressure. And we are placing pressure over different areas of the body, whether that be over the arms, over the back, over the legs. And we'll be using not just our thumbs, but our palms and our knees and our elbows. Now, it is very different to other techniques of massage. One of the things that distinguishes shiatsu is that we do perform treatments on the mat, on the floor. It's a very grounded place. It doesn't mean that shiatsu techniques can't be applied on a table as well, but typically we tend to work on the futon on the floor. We also typically tend to work with our clients fully clothed, which is very different to a lot of other modalities. And it does therefore make it a wonderful modality for working in spaces where disrobing might not be so appropriate. I was talking with one of our trainers yesterday who was doing corporate massage. And the feedback from the people in this environment was that this is just far and beyond what a remedial massage masseuse bring into that area, into that space is, because we are very much designed to work with clothes on. And it also means that it's a wonderful modality for those who might have experienced traumas in the past that makes them feel a little more uncomfortable with disrobing. So it's a beautifully safe modality in that way. And I think there's a lot of scope for shiatsu to really step up and take place in our modern world. And we are using pressure. We're typically using a perpendicular pressure. We're not typically doing a lot of rubbing or moving or sliding over the body. So it's very different in the way that it interacts with the muscles and interacts with our channels as well. And when we talk about the channels, we're talking about the channels which are related to what I call East Asian medicine. And I need to define this term because it's often confused or misunderstood. We've probably heard of TCM, or traditional Chinese medicine, which is very much the basis that a lot of acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine is taught from. And it's a very specific model that arises out of China of East Asian medicine. But East Asian medicine incorporates the evolutions that may be different to that model in China, and the evolutions that might be different in countries such as Japan and in Korea or in Taiwan. So it's a little bit of a broader, more encompassing term. But we also see that it comes from very similar bases and understandings of how we as human beings interact and respond to the world around us and the cycles of nature around us. And we have very similar philosophies throughout all of these different cultures, yin yang theories and five element theories, and these ideas of how the body responds to climatic disorders, cold and heat and dampness, which is actually not just an East Asian medicine thing, but we see that in a lot of traditional cultures around the world, in the Middle East and all around the Mediterranean and through Europe as well. But we do typically tend to associate that very much with the approaches of East Asian medicine. We are a training provider. We are a nationally registered training organization. We have RTO code 3609. This means that we are authorized to deliver what is known as nationally recognized training. So this is a defined training package, it's called, made up of specific units of competency. There's 22 units of competency that will make up our program, and we will deliver different subjects based on combinations of those units. And those units have standardized outcomes and standardized requirements that one must demonstrate. And for a lot of those units are common, what we call common units with other programs as well. So for example, if one studied a diploma of remedial massage, you'll have the same units of competency for anatomy and physiology, or perhaps small business planning or legal and ethical frameworks, which means that we have the opportunity there for credit transfers, recognizing your prior study and giving you advanced standing in our program. Now, this year is a very special year for the college. It is our 40th birthday. We've been around that long. This image is our last venue we had in Evans Street, which is the last place that we had. Unfortunately, we left there a few years ago to move over to Ceres. It was a beautiful old warehouse. And prior to that, the college was located in Collingwood. So it's had a long history. It's been around for a very long time. We've trained a lot of practitioners throughout the years. And as I said, we are one of those two providers that offer the diploma of shiatsu and oriental therapies. But since we left that venue, our delivery model has changed a little bit, and we are delivering our training currently through a blend of online and in-person learning. And we also continue to offer our continuous professional development workshops for shiatsu practitioners who are graduated, as well as acupuncturists. And what this means with our delivery is that we deliver a lot of our content that's more theoretical based and knowledge based online, which allows people to study from the comfort of their own home. We support that with regular tutorials, so live online tutorials with our trainers. But then, of course, all of the practical work we feel is very important that we only teach in person. Whilst we may offer resources to help support review of that study, learning hands-on techniques really needs to be an in-person transmission. And not only just for the energetics of that, but also for the specific guidance that's required to adjust posture, to adjust and observe you working with your breath, and to guide you through what it actually feels like. One of the things that happens in our practical classes when you learn Zen Shiatsu, for example, our very first introduction to Shiatsu techniques in first semester, is that in each class, once a routine or an area has been demonstrated by the trainers, then you practice on a classmate and you receive. And both parts are just as important, not just learning how to give the treatment, how to practice a Zen Shiatsu routine through the back muscles, but also receiving that and knowing what it feels like, knowing what feels uncomfortable, knowing what resonates, because that informs our own practice, and that can only be done in person. So we have that blended delivery where we will bring all of that practical natured learning in person, and we'll support that through clinics as you progress through the program, where you're treating friends and family in first year, ideally. Our remote students sometimes don't have as much access to familiar bodies in Melbourne, so we support that by helping to find them from our community. But then as we move into level 2, then we actually run paid clinics where the paying public come in for these semi-professional treatments from students under supervision. So we're gradually progressing you through to the statehood that you'll have when you finish, of being able to move into your own practice and treat the public. This is the series learning center behind that garden there. It's got this beautiful bushland outlook through the windows.
Jason, I can't actually see your shared screen.
You cannot see my
Um,
screen. Why isn't it doing that?
Unless it's me on my end. Oh, here we go.
Is that sharing now?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
fantastic. I've done such a
Thank you.
wonderful job of this. All the presentations I've done, still didn't manage to share my screen. Thank you for pointing that out, Vicky. We should say that earlier. This is the series Learning Center. Let me go back a couple of slides because I wanted to show this. This is the old college venue that we had. But yes, this is series where we are now. This is the lovely garden outlook that you can sit in outside of classes. And the offerings that we have coming up into 2026 is our diploma program. That begins in February, as well as our certificate of East Asian wellness and short course offerings. And I'll quickly talk through what all of those look like. Now, our Shiatsu program, the diploma, is our core offering. It's nationally recognized training, and upon graduation, you are eligible for membership with STAR. That's the Shiatsu Therapy Association of Australia. That's the peak membership association, which represents shiatsu practitioners. And as you join them, then they have requirements for ongoing membership, which includes your continuous professional development, continually enhancing and expanding your knowledge. Other requirements such as holding a first aid certificate and professional indemnity insurance. And then now, with the recent changes that have been announced just in the last year, of shiatsu being now recognized once again for private health fund rebates, STAR is leading that discussion about what exactly the health funds want to have in place for practitioners so that they will begin offering those rebates again. And the short answer essentially is the nationally recognized qualification. That's essentially the minimum requirements for membership of the Association of STAR, or ATMS, or ANTA, which again are membership organizations which represent a much broader sector of natural therapies. So they also represent naturopaths and acupuncturists and massage therapists, which might be the option for some graduates should you have other modalities that you work with. But they're just fine-tuning that at the moment. We expect within the next couple of months that's all going to be finalized so that shiatsu therapists can start offering health fund rebates. And it's been a big discussion for many years about the validity of the health fund rebates and whether it made a big difference when it got removed for shiatsu practitioners in terms of client numbers. But it does hold for a very certain, I guess, recognition and standing of officialdom, or it's probably a better word than officialdom. But it means that people look at the diploma shiatsu with a little bit more respect. And in that, I'm coming from an employment aspect, and that's really a big thing. Our diploma qualification is very equivalent to a diploma of remedial massage. In fact, until the latest training package for remedial massage, people who did diploma shiatsu actually studied more in terms of anatomy and physiology. There was higher requirements of knowledge in that area, because when we come back to that question earlier of what shiatsu is, it's body work, it is massage, but it also goes beyond that as we bring in the understanding of the body from an East Asian medicine perspective. Because when we look at that and we begin to understand the relationships of our different organs inside our body, how they work together, and how they express externally through our channels, and thus how we can move in the other direction and treat those organs with our channels, the scope of what we can begin to support people through begins to expand quite significantly, from just the musculoskeletal into supporting people through sleep issues, digestive issues, menstrual issues. There's a wide range of things that shiatsu practitioners will support people with. And so that's why we have that that equivalence, that level of training, and those kind of requirements which lead into being a membership of an organization, and thus those health funds. But then with that recognition of those health funds, what we're starting to see is there's a lot of providers of mobile massage that would not previously consider hiring diploma shiatsu graduates because you couldn't offer the health fund rebates. That was the primary stumbling block for them, that now all those doors are opening once more. So it's a really exciting time for the industry, that there is actually a lot of potential and expansion for employment opportunities beyond just working in sole practice and working for yourself. Our program, our diploma program, it is 2 years full time, and that is the minimum time to progress through this diploma with us. That is based on how we progress our practical learning and our clinical progression. Now, I say that because we will have a short discussion about recognition of prior learning for those who are coming from other qualifications, such as a diploma of remedial massage, may have credit for some of those subjects like anatomy and physiology, but still need to study the shiatsu subjects, and the way they progress still takes a minimum of those 2 years. It just means that there's a lot less to do in that 2 years. And then if those for those who need to slow down study for whatever reasons, we have a part-time option as well, which is typically looking at 4 years. I have some exceptions to that, which I'll explain along the way in terms of ideal progressions, but 4 years would be our typical part-time movement. As I said, we do deliver this through blended delivery. So recorded lectures are supported with reading materials. Those are consumed in your own time. And for a diploma student, that's typically around 2.5 to 3 hours per week at the beginning of the year. It does slow down and taper off a little towards the end of the year, and is very similar in level 2 studies. But that is time that you will put aside when it suits you best around your own schedule. Students will also engage in tutorials, and a full-time level 1 student will engage in 2 hours from 6:30 to 8:30 every Tuesday night. We will have a tutorial. Level 2 students will have those on Monday nights going forward from next year. If one is part-time, of course, it depends on which subjects you're enrolled in as to which weeks you would have those tutorials on. But it's a 2 hour scheduled tutorial, changing week to week based on the subjects. And then we have our practical learning. And this is where we have the option for the remote or the local enrollment streams. Because all of that online learning, it doesn't matter where you're studying from, it's online. You could be sitting on a beach in Queensland, or you could be freezing down in Tasmania. It's up to you. When it comes to the hands-on, though, as I said, we need to deliver that in person. So we have our local stream of Melbourne students who each Thursday night will come for their classes at Series Learning Centre, 6:30 to 9, 2.5 hour classes of hands-on practice. And they will also come for their clinics over 10 Fridays throughout the year. Those Friday sessions will be scheduled from 3:30 through to 9 o'clock. There's an integration class, a little half-hour break to have a potluck shared dinner, and then 3 hours of revision and clinic treating friends and family. That's the input, that's the practical learning for our local students. Whereas our remote students are going to condense that into 4 week-long intensives. And those week-long intensives, they run over 6.5 days. And 6.5 days of hands-on, it is intense. It is in the name. So one needs to be confident that one feels okay with that level of commitment during a time frame to participate fully in those classes. It is primarily designed for those who are remote to Melbourne. For those who are closer to Melbourne, I will always encourage you to come and join us for the weekly classes, as it is a little bit of a slower integration and giving you more time to practice in between each class. But of course, someone living in Hobart can't fly here every week. So we do structure our timetable to best suit that with the intensives. And we're taking a lot of feedback on board from our experiences of delivering it this year in how we can enhance that going into next year's delivery, to make sure that there is a little bit more space for integration, a little bit more space to break up in the middle of the week, etc. So we're listening to what students have said to us about what they've experienced this year, so we can just keep improving it. And that's part of our philosophies of continuous improvement and this idea of a kaizen, which is a Japanese term looking at this idea of continually improving in our life. So yes, we do have those two different options. I think I've talked through this one, our knowledge-based content online and the scheduled tutorials. We will, through that online learning content, we're not just going to open up all of the content and say, off you go. We will email you each week with guided support to say, during this week you should be working on these lectures, you should be working on these topics. So we are going to lead you through that in a structured manner, whilst you still have that freedom within the week to find your own time to consume and enjoy that content. And of course, within that, you may be of the type that likes to rewatch or go through things a couple of times, which is one of the advantages of this online format. In an in-person class for knowledge content, once the class is finished, you've taken good notes, hopefully. But here you do have the opportunity to revisit that and listen to that again and again if there's areas that you find that you might be needing support in or wanting to go deeper in. And we do have, through many of our subjects, we have little progressive quizzes just for you to self-assess and see what's landing for you and what's not landing for you, so you can begin to fill in those gaps. But very often with a topic like East Asian medicine, it stimulates a lot of curiosity, and we tend to open a lot of books and go down a lot of rabbit holes of reading other materials, and that might also fall into your study times. So yes, this is how we structure those practical classes. As I said, in Melbourne, we have weekly classes and clinics, and then we have the intensive dates for our remote students. Now, when we talked about part-time progression, what happens in these intensives for our students in those first 2 weeks is when you're doing the Zen Shiatsu learning. In week 1, so the March and the May intensive, you're doing Zen Shiatsu, and there we're learning about the fundamental principles of Shiatsu and providing pressure, working from our hara, and learning a full body treatment and treating all of these channels through all different positions, whether face down or face up or lying on the side. In the second half of the year, then each of those weeks is dedicated to another particular style. There'll be barefoot shiatsu in August and classical namakoshi shiatsu in November. Now, when I talk about part-time progressions and saying that it's 4 years, I will often recommend to remote students, if possible, it's not always possible, but if possible, to consider a 3-year progression where they do first year part-time, purely for the reason that coming with those intensives, if you only did the Zen in year 1 and the classical barefoot in the second year, there's a big gap in between. Or if you just did all of the practical learnings in that first year and then move into theory online for the second year, again, it's a big gap before we have you back here. So it's not that it's a prohibitant, but it is a recommendation to consider that if it's possible, just for an ideal learning path. But of course, we do understand that everyone has individual needs and requirements. When it comes to level 2, the way that it's delivered with our intensive weeks, they are 7-day intensive weeks, but there's a lot more moving between different subjects because we can't just deliver a subject like oriental therapies assessment where you're learning point location and pulse diagnosis in 1 week. We spread that out. And so level 2 intensives are much more inclined and suitable to a part-time progression where you might spread that out. Now, alongside practice, you are going to complete a logbook in level 1 and a logbook in level 2. Now, part of this is made up of clinical treatments. So in our supervised clinics, whether you're doing the local or the intensive stream, those supervised clinical treatments are a requirement. They are where you are coming into a space and you're treating friends and family and bringing the routines that you're learning in class into an integrated treatment under supervision. So there's a minimum number of treatments that we get you to log there. You will also practice in your own time, 20 home treatments at a minimum over your level 1 studies. Now, if you're full-time and you did 1 treatment a week over the 2 18-week semesters, you will easily surpass that. And trust me, there is nothing wrong with going above the minimums, but that is the minimum that is mapped into the learning outcomes that we have with our units of competency. And in addition to that, you're also going to learn how to treat yourself, and you'll engage in self-treatment, which is a very important part of practitioner self-care and part of how we begin to become knowledgeable about our own bodies. We begin to ensure that we are preparing our own bodies to be a practitioner and to hold space for other people. But we are also engaging in learning these very simple things that we can do to maintain and improve our own health that we can teach our clients. And it's not just shiatsu, but it's also things that we will see in the second semester of level 1 studies, where we engage in a subject called emergent practitioner, and we begin to look at how we apply East Asian medicine to our life, how we begin to live in accordance with the seasons and adjust our raising and our sleeping times, how we begin to incorporate modalities such as qigong and breath practices, how we begin to look at adjusting our diet and working with the flavors and the seasons and the temperatures of food to improve our own health. So we begin to move into this journey of exploring these things in a very first-hand sense. And indeed, in that subject, we are asking you to do things like engage in a new Qi maintenance program, like 2 months of Qigong that you don't do previously. Going to ask you to do things like explore food, perhaps give up sugar for a week and see what that does. So we want you to really begin to become at one with these practices so that you have first-hand experience to share with your clients as you become a practitioner. And to apologize, that shouldn't be here on this one, the intensive stream. There is not the mentor treatments in level 1 logbook. That is a level 2 thing. In level 2, when we move over, there is another logbook. And again, here we do 30 home treatments, 30 self-treatments. And then there is an increased level of clinical treatments that are done. Our local Melbourne students will do 22 clinics, which equates to 45 treatments in clinic. And that's not just the paying public. There's also some specialist clinics we run. We have clinics where we bring in people in their second and third trimester for complementary treatments. It's a beautiful clinic, a room full of expecting mothers, all being treated at the same time. We run a seniors clinic for the elders in our community, and we invite them in for treatment. So we have experience working with people at that stage of life. And we also run a pediatrics clinic so that you get exposure to running treating children in a supervised context as well. We also incorporate with those logbook a few other requirements, such as mentor treatments. Our Melbourne students will find a local shiatsu mentor and treat them every 2 months roughly to get feedback from an experienced practitioner. And those who are working remotely, we ask them to find a mentor and treat them on roughly a monthly basis, 10 treatments. We do understand that not everyone has local access to shiatsu practitioners. There's a lot of shiatsu practitioners in Melbourne. It's not too hard to find one as a mentor. But our remote students are coming from all over. And there's not enough shiatsu practitioners around the country yet. That's part of our mission. So we will have a discussion with individual students of what might be the most appropriate way to approach that, and how we can support you in finding a mentor that might not be shiatsu practitioner if that's where you are and what's available to you. But we might look at whether a local massage therapist or a local acupuncturist could be someone to support you in that journey as well, from that professional knowledge. Our intensive students will also, in level 2, participate in 4 remote supervised clinics. Those are going to be very limited small groups of a maximum of 5 students, where students will basically be treating someone in their home environment. We will have Zoom set up. They will have their cameras and their microphones on in separate breakout rooms so that a supervisor can watch those treatments and provide live feedback during the treatments and have a debrief, so that we have some connection with our level 2 students between the intensives, ensuring that they're still progressing. Time expectations, roughly 10 to 15 hours a week. That's dependent on your study. This is how it breaks down: a 2.5-hour practical class, 2 hours of weekly tutorial, 2 hours of home practice, which will very easily meet your minimum requirements of those 20 to 30 treatments, depending on your year level. 2 to 3 hours of weekly video content, 3 hours of self-study for assignments. Again, that depends on your study style. This is very much structured around our local students as well. Obviously, a remote student won't have 2.5 hours of practical classes because those will be condensed into those weeks. So that gives you a ballpark figure of what the loading is. And if you are joining the Melbourne stream, you'll notice a lot of that is scheduled outside of primary work hours. So we do try and make that as flexible as possible. And the same, obviously, for remote students when we're talking about our scheduled tutorials. Yes, those are the clinical requirements. So there's 10 clinics for our Melbourne stream of level 1 and 8 for our intensives. And those are built into those intensive weeks, those clinics. So it's not like there's something additional you have to come back for. And then during level 2, 22 Friday clinics for our level 2 students and 15 clinics for our intensive students. The intensive students do a little bit less of those clinics, which is why we have those additional mentorship and remote clinic requirements to support them in their studies. And all of this contributes to the minimum hours and treatments that are required for the award of this qualification. The cost of the diploma is around 9,000 for level 1 and around 10,000 for level 2 for full-time students covering all of the subjects. And these fees are paid by 10 monthly installments by direct debit, ideally. We invoice you on the 8th of February through to the 8th of November, and that gives you 7 days for heads up for the direct debit on the 15th. And of course, if you are doing part-time, then you are only being invoiced for the units or subjects that you are enrolled in that particular year. So that will spread out depending on your enrollment pathway and your training plan. Those are never paid up front. As a regulated and registered training organization, we do have requirements about protection of fees. So we only accept the installments. We don't ever ask for the full fees up front to ensure that all students are protected. Upon enrollment, there is a $100 deposit, and there are materials fees, which cover all of the sundries that we add into there, including clinical t-shirts and linens that we provide to students as they move into level 2 clinic, treatment cloths, food on our cooking days. We have with our, in level 1, for example, with our emergent practitioner, where I was talking about exploring dietary practice, the end of that unit, which happens to be the Sunday that those level 1's remote students are in town, we run a cooking day where you actually get hands-on in the kitchen, cooking food, tasting food, experiencing flavors, exploring seasonal food. And those kind of workshops, we take advantage of the fact that our intensive students are in town because our local students are doing the same workshop. So we're trying to get you together so that you are spending some in-person time with each other as well on those occasions. There are pathways for recognition of prior learning. So if you do have a diploma level qualification with equivalent units of competency that are in our program, then you can get a direct credit transfer, which is a very simple process of simply having your qualification provided to us, and that we can verify that, and it's a no-cost transfer. If you have experience or studies in other areas that's not the exact unit of competency, then we have recognition of prior learning. So for example, an acupuncturist might come in with a lot of knowledge of East Asian medicine. We have to ensure that you are meeting the requirements as defined by our training package. We'll recognize that you probably know a lot about East Asian medicine, and we will set you a few assessment tasks to ensure that that knowledge there is current and that you are meeting the requirements, which is usually not too hard to do. There is, of course, assessment involved in that, but those are pathways to gain advanced standing throughout the program to reduce the study load as one goes. And then at the other end, when we graduate, there are pathways where one can go into other qualifications, such as Diploma of Remedial Massage or Chinese Remedial Massage. There's a lot of common units, as I said, so the credit transfer would also work in the other direction if one wanted to become a remedial massage therapist at that point in time. Many students may also use this as a stepping stone and a movement towards becoming an acupuncturist and a Chinese medicine practitioner, because there's a very defined pathway there. And in my experience over the years, I've always recommended to Chinese medicine students, well before I was involved with teaching at the college, to come and do our Zen Shiatsu short course and learn the hands-on, because this hands-on connection with the body really is something that Chinese medicine students are seeking, I think, initially, and it really enhances their practice. And the feedback that I've had from many supervisors in Chinese medicine programs over the years is that those who have done Zen Shiatsu or done the diploma of Shiatsu, they are a lot more confident, and they seem to have a very different presence in their final year clinic from having that knowledge and that experience of hands-on. And of course, those pathways for Chinese medicine, they are becoming a little bit more limited in terms of the offerings, the colleges that offer them around the country at the moment. We have Endeavour College, which offers them, and there's also Torrens University down here in Melbourne. And we're going through discussions with those about how we can have clearly defined, established pathways so one might know exactly what one might get moving into that progression should one choose to in terms of advanced standing. Those are ongoing discussions at the moment, but I will say that what I can say at the moment is that yes, it's very likely moving into a Chinese medicine degree that you would get advanced standing for certain parts of this, should one choose to go that way. Now, our spaces are limited in our diploma programs. Quite simply, as we hire the spaces, there's a maximum capacity in the room of how many mats we can put down on the ground. I cannot put more than 12 mats on the ground at Ceres, and at the Living Centre in East Melbourne, which is a beautiful converted church where we run our intensive programs. Vicky, you know that place. I can only fit 10 mats. And so that limits our current offerings for diploma students to 12 students for our Melbourne stream and 10 for our intensive stream. Now, what that does mean in those practical classes is that we do offer short course enrollments for practical classes like Zen Shiatsu. And so in the Melbourne stream, we might have 12 students, maximum of 12 students being diploma students, but we may also have another 12 short course students studying side by side, because those short courses are exactly the same content which offers credit in and recognition into our diploma program. The reason that we need to have that limit is that when we move into the clinics and our students are treating external people, then we can only max out those 12 mats. And 12 mats is cozy, 10 mats is cozy in those spaces. But that's our maximum cap. So we are taking enrollments at the moment. They are open. And basically the first step of the enrollment process is to complete the EOI, the expression of interest. That's essentially a very short statement which asks you to express what it is about becoming a shiatsu practitioner that interests you. And there's a wide range of answers and queries and statements that we get here. And we have some students who are coming towards the end of their studies at the moment. And with every student, at the end of each semester, we do a student review. And for the final student review, I always like to try and dig out these expression of interest and these initial ideas and statements that one's had, because it's really, really interesting to reflect on that journey and to have a look at what's changed for you and what still stands true as you've gone through this discovery of shiatsu and learn more about shiatsu and learn more about East Asian medicine, but also within the process of this discovery, learn a lot more about yourself. And that is something that kind of sits aside from all of this regulated training package discussion about subjects, that the diploma very much leads people to on a journey of self-discovery, whether that's about one's own health and how one might treat oneself and becoming more knowledgeable about one's own health and signs and symptoms that reflect imbalance within them. But also when we explore subjects like our interpersonal dynamics, where we're looking at interacting with clients and working with people of diverse backgrounds, and where some of those biases might personally exist within us that we might not be conscious of at the moment, we become a lot more aware of ourselves. So there's a very, very significant journey that I think a lot of students undergo through this process of evolving to become a practitioner, but also evolving to become a slightly different person from that which walked in on day one. It's not something that we're not like setting out to change people, but it's just a very common shared experience that I hear from a lot of people. It was the case for me and for pretty much every graduate that I've talked to along the years. But it does still start with that expression of interest. And that expression of interest is we'll kick off a process where you'll be invited into an enrolment interview and completing a diploma enrolment form. The diploma enrolment form is capturing a lot of information that we need to. And we'll stimulate processes such as creating your student accounts on our learning management system. With our enrolment interview, it's a 1-hour interview where we will spend time discussing your training plan, answering any questions, and making sure that what we are doing is tailored for you. You will, in that space between booking the enrolment interview and completing your diploma form, be enrolled in our learning management system and be asked to complete a learning, language, literacy, and digital skills assessment, or activity is probably a better word for that. The intention of this really is for students to demonstrate that they can navigate our system that we use to deliver training, that they have the skills to play a video, listen to a video, intake the information, write down on a Word document thoughts or understandings, upload that to the system, do some basic mathematics, just some very basic digital skills, and language literacy and numeracy skills to demonstrate understanding. And of course, the big intention of this is for us to ensure that you're capable of engaging with the resources as we present them, but also to identify along the way if there are areas that you might need additional support. Some people might come in with specific learning difficulties, language difficulties, so we can then identify that through that process and have a discussion in your enrollment interview about how we can best support you and whether, what is the best fit approach to your training plan. We intend to walk out of that enrollment interview with a training plan set up for you. Fee plans fully set up, and any questions that you have answered, and that is our enrollment process. Once that's been completed, we send out forms for signing. Once they have been signed and the deposits paid, basically we begin engaging you in the system, begin onboarding you in January in terms of welcome to being a student, where there'll be a series of emails introducing you to some of the expectations being a student, some of our policies and procedures and student handbooks, etc. And then, of course, in February, I think it's the 16th of February is the first date of semester, then you get enrolled in all of the subjects online, and that's when all of the learning begins. That's when everything, your guided emails start, and in that week is when your practical classes begin, or a few weeks later if you're coming to join us for the intensive program. What can you do when you graduate? You can work for yourself, self-employed clinic owner in a complementary health clinic, corporate massage, aged care support, and of course these health fund rebates are opening a lot of doors. So there's a lot of ways people might begin to apply this. It might become a full-time career for you. It might become a part-time career on the side of other things. It might be something that starts out part-time as you transition away from the role you're currently in, which is an intention a lot of people express, wanting to move out of corporate work or administrative work into something that is a little bit more meaningful for them and purpose-driven and working with people. So sometimes that's a transition process, and sometimes that's just a way to create a bit of balance in one's work schedule. So there's lots of different manifestations of this. A lot of people do tend to run their own businesses, be self-employed, which again has the beauty of agency there and independence, but also one has to master some business skills to do that. And that's why we have a small business planning unit, and we have our work health and safety and infection control units, and our legal and ethical units that will, by the end of your diploma, prepare you with things in place like an infection control procedure and privacy policies and a business plan ready to go. So you are, at the end of this diploma, ready to start your own business. That's how we intend to prepare you. Now, the other things that we do have on offer for those who aren't engaging in the full diploma program. Now, to put this quite simply, these essentially taken modules of our diploma program, so they do offer credit and recognition into the diploma program should one go down that road in the future. There's the Certificate of East Asian Medicine. This is exploring Oriental medicine framework, so the body and diseases from East Asian medical perspective. and how we begin to apply that. So looking at self-care through dietary and lifestyle maintenance. So that's taking our Oriental Medicine Frameworks 1 and 2 courses from our diploma program, which are also offered as short courses. It's taking our diet and lifestyle maintenance from our level 1 program. And then it's also taking our advanced dietary therapeutics from our level 2 program. So it's delivered over a year or possibly a little bit over as you go through that, the last learnings there. And this is directed to those who want to learn more about improving their own health, but not necessarily becoming a shiatsu practitioner, or especially for those who might be working in other fields, like as a naturopath or remedial massage therapy, that are really interested in East Asian medicine and want to start bringing some of this wisdom into their own practices. That's what this is designed for. That's what this program is designed for. And then, of course, we have our short course studies. Zen Shiatsu, Oriental Medicine Frameworks, Physiology. These are our first semester offerings. These are the modules of the diploma you would be studying alongside our diploma students. It's the same content, it's the same learning activities and assessment tasks, so that you will be offered direct credit for this into our programs should you complete these. But the short course studies are there for those who might not want to be a practitioner at this stage. They might be wanting to understand how to use Zen Shiatsu just to treat family and friends. And that's perfectly wonderful and valid if one isn't intending to become a professional practitioner. Some may be engaging in these studies for personal curiosity, but also perhaps just to explore and to see, is this a pathway I want to go down? Does Zen Shiatsu really resonate with me? Do I want to explore this further? And so we find very often that students will start out with Zen Shiatsu as a stepping stone and then progress forwards to the diploma. So those are also options. Those the Zen, the frameworks, and the physiology are run in first semester, and Zen Shiatsu and Oriental Medicine Frameworks will open the door for some of our second semester short courses such as Classical and Barefoot Shiatsu. And we do run a few other programs there for those with bodywork backgrounds. So that's all I needed to go through today. I wanted to go through roughly on time for my plan. Vicky, you're
Thank
with
you.
me today. I'm
I
sure you have
am.
some questions.
Well, I don't, because you've answered everything, all the practical components. I think the questions I have, you can't answer. I have to answer. As in, am I ready to jump in or do I go slower? So I'll have to do some thinking. But I appreciate the enrolment process you've explained. So that's very helpful. And I know what that will involve and how that might help me. But it's great to know the part-time can be done remotely. So that's
Yeah.
great. And I did go for a bit of a recce to Melbourne and check out the is it the Living Centre, and it
The
looks
one in
beautiful.
East Melbourne.
East Melbourne, it looks beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got some questions for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if we can help to answer any of those, then please reach out. That's
Thank
what
you.
we're here for. The that to me, where is it? Let's see if I can show it on here. Hold on a second. On the wrong way. This little short domain we have here, shiat.su /EOI is the expression of interest
Yeah.
/inquiry call. We'll book a 30-minute call. You can find those on our website as well. More than happy to answer any questions that we have. We are in our enrollment process up until the second week of December, right?
Okay.
For our diploma program, because of those limited mats, we do have limited spaces, and it is, first come, first serve, assuming that everyone is suitable. We will reopen for late enrollments in mid-January, but again, those are going to be dependent on what is left available in terms of spaces there. So yeah, reach out if you have any questions. We can
Thank you.
nut any of that out for you and support you. Was there anything else I could answer for you right now?
That's it. Thank you, Jason.
Well, for anyone else who then is watching this recording, which we will place up on our Facebook page and YouTube channel later, please do reach out with any questions that you have. We'd love to have a discussion with you and explore how you might integrate shiatsu into your life as a study, as an engagement, as a hands-on exploration, and perhaps as a career. It really is a meaningful career. We really focus on this idea of ikigai and finding purpose in life and something that we're good at, something that we can earn money from. Finding a life that is purpose filled, that brings us joy, that going to work is not a chore. It's not a drain, because we feel fulfilled in what we do. We feel that we have purpose, that we're making a difference, and that we really enjoy our vocation. So that's what we're offering. We hope to invite you all into it soon. So thank you for being here today, Vicky. I appreciate your presence,
Thank you very much.
and we'll connect with you very soon.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Bye bye.